is just as good as a study of 20,000 people.
And then what explains it, and we've written about this at Reason, you know, multiple times, but the increase or the apparent increase in autism really has to do with a broader diagnostic net.
Oh, absolutely.
So that it's a kind of socially created a series of more and more iterations.
What they call autism spectrum disorders, which can mean anything from acting up. They have broadened. I've read those articles. They're very good.
But here, you know, one of the questions, I mean, is video or is the use of images inherently anti-rational or non-rational? Because you can also look at various cases where, you know, somebody makes an argument, and one of the things that you can reach is a large audience in a pretty provocative way where it counters back. And certainly history... You know, the history of the image has been, oftentimes it's manipulation, and other times it's the revelation of truth.
I'm not talking so much about the image here as about the truth lies equidistant between 2 points. And that is a way, now newspapers have been guilty of this too, but it's easier in an article to look at the evidence. And one of the things about video is, because a heartbroken parent makes a lot better interview on TV than the cold-hearted doctor or scientist. And so that too is, video is ideally suited to emotion rather than reason. It's much video, if what you're transmitting is an emotional idea, let's say, video is much better suited to the heartbroken parent than it is to the cold-hearted scientist.
Perhaps. I mean, but not all scientists are cold-hearted. You know, one of the things, one of the things that's interesting is I wonder how much of this is we are going through, you know, at any point in time our culture is transitioning and transforming itself, and we're still, relatively speaking, in the early stages of developing full kind of from the cradle media literacy. And one of the reasons why I am absolutely optimistic when I think of my kids, you know, I always think of things in terms of what my parents, what opportunities they had versus what I had, which were much better. My kids have much better. But one of the things my kids are learning is media literacy, of being critical readers of information, of media images, and shows like South Park or The Simpsons, which are routinely declaimed both by left-wingers and right-wingers, are in fact very instructive. And they teach, I think they're teaching an entire generation of kids or generations of kids how to, you know, create a bullshit detector for video images.
I couldn't disagree with you more, but I will not fall into the trap of talking about your kids. Let me say that someone who's involved with Reason magazine, I would venture that a lot of discussion goes on in your home about some of these things.
Somewhat, but I mean, that's, and I certainly don't valorize the common man, you know, in a way that, you know, say Andrew Jackson might have or something, but I think that happens a lot.
I think media acceptance is one of the things that's being fostered. And just in the course of writing this book, the conglomerates and the video companies, and they're trying to reach the last untapped market. 5 years ago, they were only making videos for 2-year-olds and up. Now they are encouraging, with things like Baby First TV, videos, put a television set over your child's crib for 6 months, for 6 months on. Now this is a stage neurologically where brains are just beginning to make connections. You can't tell me that seeing TV from the time you're 6 months old, having a screen in your crib, makes media literates. No.
Oh, yeah, no, but I mean, that's not what I'm talking about.
No, but that is the inevitable extension of what's going on. Look, already.
It's not inevitable. It's a logical extension, whether or not it grows as a
certainly it is.
Do you think I was wrong? Instead of baby Einstein, I showed my kids baby Tesla? Do you think that's off in a bad way?
I don't know, but I don't think any kids. I think it's great. I think it's great for parents who want to have an hour of an adult conversation to plop a kid in front of a video.
You know,
but that's a different thing.
Baby Einstein has also replaced Bugs Bunny cartoons as the wellspring of
from
classical
putting
music.
A television set in your kid's room and leaving it on for hours a day. And the fact is, according to the University of Washington, which did a huge study of this, children under 6, sort of the pre-reading age, under 6 years old, are watching several hours of video a day, but they're only reading and being read to by their parents for 38 minutes. I don't know how they came up with 38 minutes, but the fact is, it's good to do both. But if you're going to do both, it shouldn't. The ratio of video to parents talking and reading to their children is wrong.
This is, you know, all of these. I mean, it's indescribably difficult to really get a handle on social reality. But I mean, one of the things while I was reading your book, and you were talking about the lamentation of, of reading, of literacy, of traditional literacy among kids. I can remember a few years going to, I was living in a small town in Ohio, to a midnight Harry Potter bookstore opening where, there were 200 kids in the middle of nowhere, lining up at midnight to buy books.
Yes,
you talked about iPhones.
And now publishers have found, they hoped that Harry Potter would lead kids into more reading. It hasn't. The Harry Potter, the publishers say that it hasn't. What the Harry Potter thing is very interesting. It was a melding of print with video and the culture of celebrity. The Harry Potter thing became a whole celebrity-based sort of thing with all of the other artifacts that went around in it.
Sure.
But there isn't any evidence that kids from Harry Potter have gone on to read other things. The publishers are unhappy about this.
I'm sure they are.
They thought it would. But Harry Potter was very much a kind of celebrity, cool-driven phenomenon as well.
Oh. Well, yeah, it's hard to say because when I look at the kids that my kids hang out with,
but you can't look at the kids your kids hang out.
No. But that is part of it because it's when I was growing up, there were kids who read books and kids who didn't.
Well, now there are about 3/4 fewer kids who read books, those are undeniable.
Okay, and yet more kids go on to college and more kids graduate college than before. So at what point are they not learning in college, or what is
that means very little, except that the standards for a college education have been dumbed down. I was particularly, after the Virginia Tech shootings, I was particularly interested to read that several of the classmates of the shooter had expressed their concerns about his views to the administration and been ignored. They met him in a class which was, quote, deconstructing popular horror films, much of which was devoted to looking at the various versions of Friday the 13th. I would submit to you that if anybody gets to college and doesn't know what crap Friday the 13th is, then they don't belong in college.
Here, I mean, look, there are different ways of talking about culture, and one is that culture is a set of objects that you worship at or you imbibe, and you somehow are made better by proximity to them. They're sacraments, you sacralize them. Or culture is an expression, and you're telling me that Friday the 13th, which is a huge cultural phenomenon, is not worthy of study, is not worthy of breaking down and understanding.
That's right. The function of universities should be to introduce children to something better, and they are still kids then. Not to valorize this crummy popular culture.
But I don't think that's necessarily valorizing it. I mean, I could see that as being fascinating and also something that you would then apply to Edgar Allan Poe. Or other works that are now considered.
But they're not studying Edgar Allan Poe. They were studying Friday the 13th.
But, I mean, if the limit of what you learn is what's on a college curriculum, then you're really screwed, right?
Well, I would, as I've said, I would say that anybody who gets to the age of 18 who needs to be told what's wrong with Friday the 13th and have a professor lecture to them in college hasn't had a very good elementary or secondary school education.
I mean, to say what's wrong with
this doesn't belong in college.
Okay, so film studies in general.
No, film studies, of course. Film is an important expression of popular culture.
So then what's wrong with the Friday the 13th class?
It's crap.
Okay. So
Friday the 13th. There's no reason to spend. There's so many good movies. You can spend time on them.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your life, because this book is what's fascinating about it is that at various points you come back to your upbringing and where you were from. There's I think a particularly interesting section about what many viewers probably don't remember at all, the Book of the Month Club, and kind of arguments over what used to be called middlebrow culture. Can you give us a quick biography, a biographical sketch? Where were you born? When were you born?
I was born in Chicago. I grew up in a fairly small town in Michigan, Okemos, which is the home of Michigan State University, close to it. I definitely came from what would have been then by highbrows called a middlebrow family. Right. We did subscribe to the Book of the Month Club. We had encyclopedias in our house. The Book of the Month Club was very much a reading culture. Now, it was much looked down on by highbrow intellectuals at the time because, first of all, the idea of it is that you would learn how to read better books through cultural gatekeepers.